Hello everyone, welcome to the fifth MCQ video on DC machines. So let us get started. The first question is, total core loss in a DC machine is also called as eddy current loss, hysteresis loss, magnetic loss, copper loss. And here you go. And the answer is magnetic loss. Basically in a DC machines, the different types of losses are electrical or copper losses or I squared R losses, then core losses or iron losses or magnetic losses, brush drop losses, mechanical losses and stray load losses. So these core losses are also called as magnetic losses or iron losses. Swinburne's test is conducted under dash condition. No load, full load, half load, any of the above. And here you go. And the answer is no load. So Swinburne's test is an indirect method of testing DC machines. And in this method, the losses are measured separately and the efficiency at any desired load is predetermined. Okay, so the machines are tested for finding out the losses, efficiency and temperature rise. For small machines, we can do direct loading, but for large machines, indirect methods like Swinburne's or Hopkinson tests are preferred. And in Swinburne's test, we are not loading the machine. And the advantages are therefore the power required to test the machine is very small, and as the constant loss is known, the efficiency can be predetermined at any loads. But there are some disadvantages also. Change in iron loss is not considered at the full load from no load. Due to armature reaction, flux is distorted at full load and as a result iron loss is increased. So this is not taken into account, and again Swinburne's test is performed at no load. So commutation of full load cannot be determined whether it is satisfactory or not. Next question. Hopkinson test is conducted under dash condition. No load, full load, half load, any of the above. And here you go. And the answer is full load. So Hopkinson test is also known as the regenerative test or back-to-back test and heat run test. And in this test, two identical shunt machines are required which are coupled both mechanically and electrically as shown in figure, or they are in parallel. One is acting as a motor and another one will act as generator, and the input to the motor is given by the supply means. Okay. So the mechanical output of the motor drives the generator and the electrical output of the generator is used for supplying the input to the motor. Thus the output of each machine act as input to another machine. When both the machines are running on the full load, the supply input is equal to the total losses of the machine. Hence the power input from the supply is very small. And again, by using this method, we can determine the efficiency by finding out the losses of the machines. And this has some advantages, like this method is very economical because only the loss component is taken from the supply. Then the temperature rise and commutation conditions can be checked under rated load condition because this is a load test and back-to-back test because one machine acts as load to the other one. Stray losses are considered as both the machines are operated under rated load conditions. Then large machines can be tested at rated load without consuming much power from the supply. Then efficiency at different loads can be predetermined, but it has disadvantages. The main disadvantage of this method is that necessity of two practically identical machines for performing this test. So that is the biggest disadvantage. Then next question, current drawn by a 230 volt DC motor having an armature resistance of 0.5 ohm and back EMF of 200 volt is 60 ampere, 6.6 ampere, 6 ampere, 0.6 ampere. And here you go. And the answer in this case is 60 ampere. So in this question it is not given as shunt or series, so we'll assume it as a series machine, and we know that the Vt is equal to E plus IaRa, or we can obtain Ia equal to Vt minus Eb by Ra, and it will come as 60 amps. Which of the following methods is or are used to control the speed of DC motors? Field current control, armature circuit resistance control, supply voltage control, all of the above. And here you go. And the answer is all of the above. All the above mentioned methods can be used for control of speed of DC machines. So armature voltage can be used, or field flux control, also known as the field weakening control, can be used. Then again, armature resistance control. Armature voltage control and armature resistance control are used for control below base speed, and this field weakening control is used for above base speed. A DC series motor is accidentally connected to a single AC supply. The torque produced will be pulsating and unidirectional, steady and unidirectional, oscillating, none of the above. And here you go. And the answer is pulsating and unidirectional. Because in a series DC series motor, the AC currents to the field and armature winding will be unidirectional by commutator and brushes. So torque will be unidirectional but pulsating due to the AC nature. What is the increase in the torque expressed as percentage of initial torque if current drawn by the DC series motor is increased from 10 ampere to 11 ampere? 1, 11, 21, 41. And here you go. And the answer is 21. So for a DC series motor, we know that T proportional to phi Ia, or it is proportional to I square, as phi is proportional to I. So the percentage increase can be for a from 10 to 11 it is increasing, so 11 square will be 121. So the percentage increase can be obtained as 121 minus 100 divided by 100 into 100 percentage, which will be 21 percentage. In a DC motor under constant terminal voltage, what is the relation between torque and power? T proportional to P, T proportional to P square, T proportional to P cube. T is independent of P. Here you go. And you guessed it right, T proportional to P, because power P is equal to 2 pi nt by 60, where n is the speed. For a p-pole DC machine, the relation between electrical degrees and mechanical degrees is theta electrical equal to 2 by p theta mechanical, theta electrical equal to p by 2 into theta mechanical, theta electrical equal to theta mechanical, theta electrical equal to 4 by p into theta mechanical. And here you go. And the answer is electrical degree is equal to P by 2 times mechanical degrees. So always to find the electrical degree, we have to multiply the mechanical degree with P by 2. The air gap between the yoke and armature in DC machine is kept very small to avoid locking of the armature, to avoid overheating, to achieve a stronger magnetic field, all of the above. And here you go. And the answer is to achieve stronger magnetic field, the air gap between yoke and armature is maintained as small as possible. Commutator in a DC machine provide dash rectification, half wave, full wave, half wave control, full wave control. And here you go. And the answer is full wave. So commutator in a DC machine provides full wave rectification. Dynamic braking can be used for shunt motors, series motors, compound motors, all of the above. And here you go. And the answer is all of the above. Dynamic braking can be used for any kind of DC machines. Dynamic braking is the method of braking by connecting a resistance across which the energy is wasted as heat, which is one of the inefficient methods. Dynamic braking is employed to brake dash, non-reversing drive, reversing drive, both A and B, none of the above. And here you go. And the answer is both A and B. So dynamic braking can be employed to brake non-reversing or reversing drive. DC machine is a conduction machine, convection machine, both A and B, none of the above are correct. And here you go. And the answer is conduction machine. So DC machine is basically a conduction kind of machine. Generators work on the principle of production of dash dynamically and statically induced EMF, statically induced EMF, none of the above, dynamically induced EMF. And here you go. And the answer is actually the one shown here is wrong. The answer is dynamically induced EMF, because we know that basically there are two kinds of EMF production. One is statical induced EMF and then dynamically induced EMF. In generators, the armature is moving, so there is a motion, so it is dynamic in nature. So generators and motors are working on dynamically induced EMF, but transformer is working on statically induced EMF principle. So the answer is D. Wave winding must go at least dash around the armature before it closes back where it started. Once, twice, thrice, 4 times. And here you go. And the answer is twice. A wave winding must go at least twice around the armature before it closes back. In a DC generator, the generated EMF is directly proportional to the field current, pole flux, number of armature parallel paths, number of dummy coils. And here you go. And the answer is pole flux, because we know that the generated EMF is equal to phi Zn by 60 P by A, where phi is the flux, Z is the number of armature conductors, N is the speed, P is the number of poles, and A is the number of parallel paths. So E is proportional to the pole flux. The commercial efficiency of a shunt generator is maximum when the variable loss is equal dash loss, constant, stray, friction, windage. And here you go. And the answer is constant loss. So the variable loss should be equal to the constant loss for the efficiency to be maximum. The critical resistance of a DC generator is the resistance of armature, field, brushes, load. Here you go. And the critical resistance is the resistance of the field. So I have already discussed in one of my previous videos what is critical resistance. It is the maximum resistance up to which the generator will excite, and this is the resistance of field. In small DC machines, armature slots are sometimes not made axial but are skewed. Though skewing makes winding a little more difficult task, yet it results in dash slight decrease in losses, quieter operation, both A and B, savings of copper. And here you go. And the answer is both A and B. So skewing makes it quieter in operation and also it reduces the losses. That is all for this video. Thank you.